Hello and welcome to City on the Sofa here on LCFC TV as the Foxes aim to win back-to-back Premier League games. They've travelled to the Emirates Stadium and Arsenal this evening. We'll have all the build-up on this show and we'll take you throughout the game and have the best of the post-match reaction as well. Joining me, Dan Bates, in the studio is Matt Elliott and an ever-present on this show, Steve Walsh. And joining us from his home up in Yorkshire is Gerry Taggart. Good evening, gents.
Evening, Batesy.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening,
Tags.
How are we all doing?
Excellent.
Well done, Walshy. As long as you're excellent, that's a good thing. Matty, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good,
all
mate.
good, Dan. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm good. We got Tags on board at last. Late tuning in, mate. All okay?
Yeah, all okay. Just a bit of yoga got in the way. That's why I was a little bit late.
Whoa.
Just stretching the back muscles
Is
off.
that a
I
yogurt
wasn't
or a
expecting
yoga?
to hear that. What, you've been doing it?
No.
No. Thank God for that.
What are we
Just
thinking ahead of
watching.
the game, Gerry?
Sorry, Dan. Missed
That's
that.
okay, don't worry. How are you feeling ahead of the game? Do you think Leicester can get something at the Emirates this evening?
Yeah, it's obviously with a big win on Saturday at the weekend, then that was a massive confidence boost for everybody involved. But Arsenal themselves had a great away win against Wolves, one of the chasing 3 or 4 teams that are trying to chase Leicester down for that Champions League place. So it's going to be a very, very interesting game indeed. Very difficult game, I feel, because Arsenal, since coming back from the lockdown, have been in decent form.
Sorry, Gerry, I thought you'd slightly cut off there, obviously. But, Matty, it was a good result, wasn't it, over Palace? And they'll be going to Arsenal tonight knowing that Arsenal are a very good side, but they've shown a lot of frailties, particularly for the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, they have. And Leicester genuinely competing on at least equal terms with Arsenal. And, that's some statement because I'm going to nick Walsh's stat here. I know he's dying to get them out. He's got a whole list out over there. But, I mean, Leicester haven't got anything from Arsenal away. I think I'm right.
Got a point in 1995.
1995.
In the Premier League.
There he goes. Look, he wouldn't even let me do it for him. He dropped it in there. Right, 1 point in 1995. We got a draw in an FA Cup tie back in our day in 2000. And we came and beat them on penalties in the replay. But that's not Premier League stuff. That's the sort of formidable opponent you've been up against over the years. Now, Arsenal have had a little bit of a slide, and Leicester have obviously in the ascendancy, these days. And it's good to see them competing at a level. And Leicester, I thought, as the result endorsed, were the favourites here at the King Power in the season, and they went on to get the result, and deservedly so. So it's it's really interesting to see them going toe to toe at this stage of the season. Arsenal playing well at the moment, as Gerry mentioned there. They had a little bit of a blip, didn't they, when Brighton they came unstuck, didn't they? Mm-hmm. Late on in the last minute, Maupay scoring the goal. Other than that, I think they've won every game subsequently, so they'll be confident and they'll be harbouring extreme outside thoughts of perhaps gate crashing the top 4/5, although it does look a long way off. But irrespective of that, they're a team that are developing under the new manager, and he's sorting a few things out, seemingly. It will be a tough proposition for Leicester this evening.
But Leicester, of course, will be going into the game full of confidence after that fantastic win over Crystal Palace on Saturday, and it was all about one man.
First time on to Perez, lovely control from Perez, he shifts it to Tielemans, nice attack, Tielemans into the box, Iheanacho's there! Fantastic Leicester City goal, and it could be a vital one. Barnes is wonderful, he's put it to Vardy, who scores, makes it 2, and there it is, the easiest finish for his 100th Premier League goal. Jamie Vardy finish it here for 3-0. Vardy up against Keita, cool as you like. Make that 101 Premier League goals.
Yes, fantastic victory over Crystal Palace, and Jamie Vardy, of course, making it to 100 Premier League goals. As ever with the show, City on the Sofa, we want you guys at home to be as involved as we are here. So please do send in your thoughts, your pictures and your videos, and maybe your predictions as well ahead of the game. Walshy, just looking back at that result on Saturday, and Jamie Vardy, of course, stole the limelight in a way, didn't he? But Leicester City, the football club, needed that, and Leicester as a city as well needed that victory.
They certainly did. You know, you could the pressure's been mounting for weeks now, and that elusive win wasn't happening, and it was a much-needed win, and it was the performance for me as a whole, the whole team, every player, played really nearly to the maximum. It was fantastic to see. They controlled the game, and got back onto that winning mentality is what we need going into these last few games. So it was an important one for that. It's a tough proposition tonight. Don't take anything away from Arsenal, like you say. The stats tell you, it's a difficult place to go and get anything. I didn't realise until me and Matt were speaking that the record goes back till then. It's crazy, and it's time for a change. I think that we've got to go down there and be positive as we can, and let's try and get a win down here tonight, and just show people, that things are back on track. I think that's important. They certainly look that way. The confidence is there tonight against a youthful-looking Arsenal team these days, with obviously a new manager who's tactically very disciplined. And they're 4 wins in a row, so they'll be right up for this as well. With their confidence is very high, so we're set for a great game tonight.
Since Project Restart, Gerry, I think Brendan Rodgers and the group at Leicester will openly admit that they weren't at the levels that maybe they would have liked to have been. But when you looked at the results Leicester had, the performances actually weren't as bad as maybe what the results suggested they were. So you got the sense that a game and a performance and a result like Saturday was coming.
Yeah, I think so. I think what you have to do when you analyse the games, they've had good halves and bad halves in each of the games. And, you go back to the Everton game. None of the two teams, I thought, in the first half really, bossed it. But, Everton took their opportunities well. We talked about the VAR. But in the second half, Leicester came out and really, they took control for large periods of the second half. And it was the same against Chelsea, but in the first half in the cup game. And it all came together. And I think, it's vitally important that you've got to start as well as you finish as well. You've got to start well and you've got to finish well as well. And we've seen that on Saturday. And that's exactly the same sort of tactics that Brendan will use tonight. It's all about getting the 90 minutes as a whole. Not just trying. Obviously, Arsenal are going to have pressure on the Leicester goal. They're going to have possession of the ball. They're a good team, make no mistake about that, and they like to score goals. And their record at home is phenomenal. Let's not forget that. Not just against Leicester, but the rest of the league. So it's up to Brendan to make sure that tonight they get 90 minutes, a whole 90 minutes out of the team. And if they do, then they're giving themselves a good chance because, as I said before, they'll go into the game full of confidence. How
does Brendan Rodgers do that, Matt? How does he get that performance for 90 minutes out of the players, do you think?
Easier said than done. Otherwise, you do it week in, week out consistently, wouldn't you? But that's the target, that's the aim. And I think managers are always looking to improve the mentality of individuals and the group, as Brendan calls it. But sometimes you can have the same preparation, the same intensity, and it's just not there for whatever reason. But as Gerry mentioned, the players there, they'll realise themselves that the importance of the games at this stage of the season, it's there, staring them in the face. They know what they've got to do. And I think, gradually, you'd like to think that it's coming together. Even with, when you look at the results, and they're a bit lacklustre, the performances, against Watford and Brighton, both games could have gone either way. So I think, even Stevens was about the right result. But a little bit of fortune or a little bit of discipline at the end of that game, in particular against Watford, you get yourself 1-0 up in the latter stages, you expect to go and win it. So it's such small margins that you're talking about. Leicester got it back on track at the weekend. Signs were there against Chelsea, without a doubt, and the game before against Everton. But, luck wasn't with them on that occasion. So you just got to try and just be as focused as possible. I think Brendan will be good at this stage of the season. There is a certain amount of pressure, of course there is, with what is at stake. But that pressure's been alleviated to an extent because of the result against Palace and the clean sheet, and Vardy's got his 100 mark, 101, as it turned out, and a few goals in the back of the net, and it does so much for the confidence. Anyway, that will do part of Brendan's job. But it's a different proposition tonight, different scenario. You've got to be prepared for things to go against you, show that resilience. All these attributes that come together in you being, a strong, powerful force in the Premier League, which Leicester are at the moment and want to be down the line, and that they want to get the opportunity to perform at the highest level, i.e. in the Champions League. So that itself should be motivation for the players. Really, they talk about the youthfulness of the squad, but there's a good mix of experience within it. And the young players, they're not young whippersnappers, teenagers, in the early stages of their career, but they'll know what's at stake. And, I think, as they have done for the majority of their time, certainly at Leicester, they've risen to the occasion.
I guess, Walsh, as Matt was saying there, that the Jamie Vardy goals, getting to that 100 mark will obviously be a weight off his back, but the result and getting that first 3 points since the return for Leicester will be a huge lift for the team.
Of course, and for Jamie himself personally, he's got that milestone now. I think that pressure was mounting on him, but like we said, the performance as a whole was very encouraging for everybody. I think the shape of the team that the manager picked worked very well. He's obviously looking at that same system tonight. Ryan Bennett stepping in and looked very composed. We certainly had a lot of joy down the right side with James Justin given that licence to get forward and use his pace. Perez was, he had a terrific game, worked hard for the team, and Jamie Vardy's been crying out for some help, and all of a sudden he looked more, he had more appetite for the game, did Jamie, and that's why he got his goals, because like we said, you get the supply for a goal scorer like him. It's not too long that they have a barren spell like that. But Iheanacho, if he can work, we discussed it the other day, that if he can work his socks off and chase every lost cause, then there's no. Obviously, he has to play tonight. He's made a name for himself by his performance on Saturday. So the team as a whole look very balanced in that shape. This is, a bigger proposition tonight, and there are some terrific players. And Arsenal are, like we said, they've not lost in 4 or 5 games now. So and they've had quite a few clean sheets as well. So this is a tough one, but both teams high in confidence. Like I said, this will be a really good game, and if we can nick anything from here, a point's a good result. If we win, it'd be incredible. But and they're capable. Let's not hide behind anything. Leicester are capable on the day of beating an Arsenal team with 9 points in front or whatever it is, and we want to make that gap too hard for Arsenal and finish their hopes of anything this season off. So and obviously again we put pressure on the teams below us, which is a good thing. So we're in a good position. Again, still in our hands.
Yeah, as well as you referenced the team news there, we will run you through the teams in just a moment's time, Gerry, but it is Vardy and Iheanacho up front together again for Leicester, obviously both on the score sheet against Crystal Palace on Saturday.
Prepared to start Kelechi. There was, obviously he's had a bit of a topsy-turvy season as Kelechi, but the one thing, that he has done, and just before the lockdown, and obviously since coming back, and getting onto the pitches, he scored goals. So you've got 2 players that are, I'm not saying they're going to guarantee you goals, but near as damn it, they're going to guarantee you goals, the 2 of them. And so, for Brendan, that is a major, major weight off his shoulders. Who else can score goals apart from Jamie? the answer is Kelechi Iheanacho.
And there we have the team there. So it's Kasper Schmeichel in goal, the back three, Matty of Johnny Evans, Kaglar Sönshu, Ryan Bennett, James Justin and Mark Albrighton. We think they'll be that way round as the two wing-backs. Then Wilfred Ndidi and Youri Tielemans and Perez in behind Iheanacho and Vardy, where he was so impressive, wasn't he, on Saturday in that role? Yeah,
he was. And it's more of his favoured stroke customary role, shall we say. I think he probably played majority of his career as one of a pair, or sometimes isolated up top on his own, but out wide, as he has been for Leicester, although he's done reasonably well, he's done very well on occasions, you don't feel like it's his natural position, but it was a little bit more like it at the weekend, wasn't it? He picks up spaces cleverly, doesn't he? He's on the half turn, good awareness, manipulates the ball well, and always looking for little give and goes, or whether he can outstrip the defenders himself or not is open to question, but always probing and always trying to open up space, isn't he? And Gerry mentions that who can score other than Iheanacho. Brendan Rodgers will be hoping that Perez can add to the equation as well, because he has that potential. He's not a goal machine, and he'd be disappointed with his goal return, I think, tally so far up to this point in the season. But that can be amended, and like him to contribute as well as others. You can't be over-reliant. I think earlier in the season the goals were coming pretty much from here, there and everywhere. Obviously primarily Jamie Vardy. Barnes will come in with a flurry. Tielemans as well, needs to up his goal ratio as well. He has that potential, and again, at set pieces. You need contributions from different areas, but I think Brendan Rodgers would be delighted with how the game went, not just in terms of the scoreline, but how Leicester adapted to the tinkering that he employed. It was pretty impressive, really, because, OK, they might have practiced it and rehearsed it in training, but you hadn't seen them play, not with that personnel and that exact shape and system too often, if at all. And it worked, and I thought it bamboozled Crystal Palace a little bit. We're hoping for more of the same this evening against Arsenal, although it's going to be a different type of match, you would imagine. Arsenal at home, OK, crowdless, but more likely to take the game to Leicester may well suit them.
We can look now, obviously, Jamie Vardy scored his 100th and 101st Premier League goals against Crystal Palace, of course, on Saturday. So we got these three that are doing the show this evening to pick their three favourite Jamie Vardy Premier League goals. And we've asked you guys at home to pick your favourite from those three. So we can watch now Jamie Vardy's top three as voted for by Matt, Walsh and Gerry.
Mahrez, excellent work. Mahrez, high ball over the top. Vardy is chasing it. Thinks about the shot first time. Oh, what a goal! That is absolute top class from Jamie Vardy. With an hour gone at King Power Stadium, a piece of real magic.
Inviting Maguire to come forward. His ball to Albrighton near side the left, looking for Vardy. Great ball to Vardy. Oh, brilliant from Jamie Vardy. That is a quite sensational goal from the England striker to take it first time and lift it nonchalantly over Hugo Lloris. Albrighton the provider. Vardy with the impudent finish to make it Leicester 1, Tottenham 0.
Back pass, but Morgan was wise not to, and Vardy strikes a beautiful goal, and he scores once again at the Hawthorns. 4 in 4 now for Jamie Vardy here at West Bromwich Albion, and he has taken that one brilliantly, watching it drop over his shoulder, and on his left foot has volleyed it beyond Ben Foster into the bottom corner. 21 minutes here at the Hawthorns. Vardy raises his arms in celebration. It's 1 each.
Well, they're the 3 goals that we've narrowed down, thanks to Matt Elliott, Gerry Taggart and Steve Walsh. And we've asked you guys at home on Twitter to vote for your favourite of the 3, so we can take a look at the results of those. So, as voted for by Foxes fans, their favourite Jamie Vardy Premier League goal, quite resoundingly Matt Elliott, is the goal against Liverpool. 54% of the vote voting for that one.
Yeah, I can understand that, to be honest. I just watching the replays there, I changed my mind every time I saw a ball go in the net. And you know, they were all as good as each other in different ways. It was like this combination of like Van Persie, his best Van Basten and Rooney. When each one of those goals, special in their own way. I actually went for, and I'm just about going to stick with it, the West Brom goal, because I thought the pass from Mahrez, exceptional, as was Albrighton's clipping against Tottenham. But and then the timing there, here we see it that Mahrez is picking it up from deep on the turn. There was nothing on really. Defending not the best, but what a run there, what a pass, inch perfect in terms of timing of the run as well. And then the execution with his, I hesitate to say it, weaker foot, and he's just guided it in with such control. You know, you don't see too many goals like that, do you? You don't. It's only from top-class players. And Jamie Vardy's one of them.
So, Matt, you've gone for that goal, which is unbelievable, Walshy, isn't it? Do you agree with that? I think it was 26%, I think it was, of Leicester fans.
I don't agree with it, because I think that the Liverpool goal smashes that. But like you say, all 3 goals are very, very special goals in different techniques. And this one here that I've chosen, you know, just the anticipation, the instinct, you know, the awareness of the keeper off his line is just from, you know, magician. It was just a goal that only him could really score that. You know, it just bounces nicely on the volley, and
supreme
that's got to be.
Walsh,
yeah, it is, and it's
he's
just
on top of his game there.
Yeah, absolutely on top of his game. And you know, I was just looking at your, you know, the top. Was it the Tottenham one just then? Mahrez. We miss a Mahrez, don't we? We obviously, you know, any team would do, and he's just the player. If you imagine, you know, them balls that he used to put in for Vardy and that association that they had this season, he'd have been a terrific player for us, but we've obviously not got him. A great creator, and yet, you know, that's where we want to see Jamie Vardy. That's where you want to see most of his goals are, you know, beating that last defender, and you know, that vision of someone clipping the ball over the top and he's in. And you know, it happened against Palace just in the second half, where he gets a chance and he finishes in them circumstances. So it looked like he dried up for a little while, but he just, like I said to you, in any goal scorer, natural goal scorer like him, will always come back and score goals. And it's great to see him back on the sheet. It'd be great tonight if he can just follow that up.
And then the third one, Gerry, that goal against Spurs was quite brilliant again, wasn't it? And you'll do well, I think, to talk us through this. Is someone cooking in the background, are they there, Gerry?
Maybe. But yeah, this goal here, the touch and goal, this one for me, I think the technique used, you know, the execution, the awareness of the spatial awareness of where the keeper is, the defenders are, and the execution just makes that a high tier of skill to try and pull off. Quite incredible. And you say all 3 goals are just sheer class. The West Brom goal, he just makes it look so simple. This is all about cool, calm, collective, right in the box, right at the key moment. You just think he's dangling a leg out, but he's not. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly how much power to get on the ball, to lift it over the keeper, get it back down again. And while he's doing that, he's running at full pace. It's quite incredible. It really is.
I don't think Matty's looked at the keeper once, has he? Has he almost assumed that he's going to be out of position there? He knew instinctively what he wanted to do.
No, I think he's seen out the corner of his eye there. I mean, he's probably sort of got a picture in his mind as he's made the run. He knows how far away the goalkeeper is at that instance, and you know, such is the excellence of the movement. The pass from Albrighton, inch perfect as well. You know, he hasn't had a direct look. He hasn't had time to do that, because if he does that, takes his eye off the ball and probably gets the connection wrong. But I think he's just seen him sort of semi-lurking in and around the edge of the 6-yard box, and he knows that he's got to lift it over him. He would have seen the picture before. As you say, he didn't really need to have a proper glance. But it was, yeah, to get that, it's like when you see, I know it's slightly different, you see players running through and they try and chip or lob the keeper. How many times do you see the ball end up on the top of the roof of the net? Because it only takes, you know, a fraction of too much contact and it travels. You know, you're going at pace, you've got to dink it with pace and get it down. Now, on that instance, he just looped it over. It was beautiful. It was almost like a basketball player, you know, when they just tip it into the net and that they, and you know, that's with the touch and the sensitivity of their hands, and everyone's ranting and raving about how wonderful it is. To do that with your feet, running that quick from that distance, something special. And there's a case for every goal to be considered the best. It's just from what point of view you see it at the time. Like I said, I'll probably change my mind later when I have a think about it. But for now, I'll stick with the West Brom.
Yeah, and over 50% of those fans at home voted for the Liverpool goal. So thank you very much for getting involved and voting at home. We've had a number of you that have sent in your pictures as well to us on City on the Sofa. You can do so, incidentally, by using the hashtag LCFC or hashtag ThenNowAgain. Kerry says, some of my squad prefer this supporting from home, Lark. They're enjoying that there. They've even got the dog kitted out. They said, come on, boys, eyes on the prize. The New York Foxes say, great gesture at LCFC. You're a cut above the rest. They've clearly been sent their supporters packs. And Blake says, come on, boys, with a nice video there. And finally, we'll look at Ryan as well. But, Matt, we can see the support that's flooding in from Foxes fans everywhere.
Yeah, no surprise, though, is it, really? I mean, you know, obviously it's got its base of supporters, the club, but support goes far and wide, not just county-wide, as we've seen there, you know, right across the waters, you know, across to the States and globally these days. Leicester City are a global enterprise. You know, perhaps not to the extent of some of the more established Premier League hierarchy, shall we say, but Leicester's on an upward spiral, and not just on the pitch. It's great to see involvement, you know, these frustrating times when can't come and see the games live or can't travel down to London, as the case is tonight, to go and follow the Foxes. But people will be watching in their tens of thousands tonight, and it's great to see everyone getting on board. New York Foxes there, as we saw. Me and Walsh had the pleasure of meeting the boys over there and the ladies, and Gerry also when he went to Miami. Again, you know, an indication of what an enterprise Leicester City Football Club is these days.
Yeah, new boys are delighted with how far away you can get to travel to see those. So you're encouraging even further destinations for Leicester fans, I'm sure, for your holidays as well, Matt. But let's hear from some of the Leicester City squad. This is Jose Perez and Brendan Rodgers speaking ahead of the game today.
Very important, definitely. After a couple of bad results, it's always important to get that first win. 3 points in an important day, important game for us. So yeah, the team is getting more confidence, a clean sheet as well. Three goals for us that we were struggling a little bit in terms of scoring goals. So it's good. It's good. A lot of positive from yesterday's performance. But this doesn't stop. It's another test in a couple of days, and we need to make sure we're ready.
I think Mikel's done very, very well since he's gone in. One, he's gone into a club with a huge expectation, which he knows from being a player there. But he's gone in on his first job into a huge task, and I think how he's dealt with it so far has been outstanding. You know, he's gone in from a tactical perspective. He's made it very clear how they want to play. Style you can see, and that's not an easy style to put in place and to implement, especially at a club that is wanting to be challenging straight away as well. But I think his courage since he's gone in to want to develop that, and they played out of a couple of different systems, but the styles always remained the same, and that's something that will bode well for them in the future and for him. So I think he's done very, very well. Got the team very well organised. They look to play how Arsenal supporters would want them to play, and because it's not just about winning, you have to win in a certain style. And I think he's made some really, really good steps in this early part of his time there. So yeah, they've on the back of 3 good results after the Brighton game. So we'll look forward to that challenge. But I think from his perspective, he's done very well.
Jose Perez and Brendan Rodgers there speaking ahead of the game this evening. Matt, we just heard Brendan there talking about Mikel Arteta and the job that he's done at Arsenal. It wasn't an easy job for him to come into, and maybe the results at first weren't where they wanted to be, but they are now, as you've already referenced, their recent form are slowly starting to build and be shaped into a really good-looking team.
Yeah, it's a difficult job, but I mean, one that he'd be relishing, wouldn't it? He wouldn't have left Man City lightly in the position that he had there, but Arsenal seems to have been in his heart as a player. And he was well received, and much in demand really from the Arsenal supporters. I think after what had gone on before, over the last few years, in truth, there was a lot of unrest, and I think the supporters as well as the board see Arteta as a genuine possible solution, and all the indications are early on that will be the case. I think. From an external point of view, when you saw that appointment, you thought, yeah, I can see that happening. He seems like he knows what he's on about. And people are, quick to sort of point the finger and almost be gleeful when people, in their terms, see failure, and the likes of Arteta, a couple of sticky results and it's same old Arsenal, they're going to crumble, and they haven't. And he seems to sort a few things out as well. It's still a development process for him. He's still sort of ascertaining who he wants to be involved at the club and who he maybe needs to wheedle out and who he wants to bring in. It's still early days for him. But, I think, all the indications are that it'd be a very sound appointment and perhaps, there for a little while, dare I say, because he seems to have everything that Arsenal are looking for at the moment. That feeling, that connection with the club, an eye for youth, technically very astute. He's very detailed, precise and driven in his approach. And obviously, he has the experience and the backing, he has the respect of the players, because what he's done as a player and as a coach at Man City. So there's many components to his coaching stroke, manager role, and pretty impressive so far, you have to say.
Well, we can take a look now at the team he's picked this evening to face Leicester City at the Emirates Stadium. Obviously, his hand's been forced in goal. He's got to play Emi Martinez there, Walshy, but we think he's going with a back three and matching Leicester up in that sense.
Yeah, it certainly looks a similar formation. Obviously with Tierney and Bellerin, they're going to be bombing on tonight. There's no doubt about that. So it's a good standoff, really. With Albrighton and just in a sense, I think that a lot of play will come down the width of the pitch, and it is a strong team, but if we can get at this back three, then I think there's mistakes always in an Arsenal team at the moment. I think that Arteta he must be looking for a top-class centre-half to shore up Arsenal's defence, because that's one area where they've not been great. And David Luiz has obviously come in late pre-season, and he's made a few mistakes, and he's always liable to. I think that our two centre backs, or three of them, are better than Arsenal's back three for sure. So it's up to us to get the service tonight, and let's get amongst them, and just be careful again with set pieces, because I think Arsenal, they'll work hard on their set pieces, and they'll put balls into good areas tonight. So that's one thing that's been happening in the last few games that I've noticed. There's been silly free kicks constantly in areas that cause us problems, and we've been lucky to get away with it slightly, but we did defend really well from corners in the last game. So against Palace, it was a strong, determined, dogged back line for us. So it's Arsenal. They look strong to me, but they're beatable. There's no doubt about that. If we can play similar to like we did against Palace, as with with most of the team playing to the maximum, then we've got a great chance of winning tonight.
Gerry, that midfield two of Arsenal's though, Granit Xhaka and Ceballos, since the return of football, they seem like they've built a really good partnership together. Not many people, I think, at the time when Xhaka was stripped of the Arsenal captaincy, might have thought he would be out the door. He may never play for the club again, but he's had a complete reversal of fortune, and particularly with the fans, I think that they're really on board with that partnership of Xhaka and Ceballos. Yeah,
it's obviously when you play in midfield, it's probably the most important position on the pitch, apart from the obvious one, because you control the game from the midfield part of the pitch. And we've seen, let's say, the likes of Virgil and Guendouzi, I'm not saying they've been given their marching orders by Arsenal, but Jacques has come back in the fold. He's obviously been given another opportunity to make that his own. And he seems to be taking that with two hands at the minute. And as I said, Matt was talking about, the manager having big decisions to make about who's going to keep and who's going to bring in. And it looks like he's already made a decision on one or two of them already. So it's up to people like Xhaka, to step up to the plate and be that commanding midfielder, which when you play for a team like Arsenal, you need someone like that who's going to command and control your midfield, and at the minute he seems to be doing that. And the new captain, Matt Aubameyang, he's a frightening player, isn't he? He's obviously, since he's been in the Premier League, he's always been up towards the top of the goal scoring charts. He'll be pushing Jamie Vardy, I'm sure, all the way to the end of this season as well, in that sense, for the golden boot. Not the golden shoe, Walshy, as he kept going on Saturday. But he is obviously the big danger, you'd say, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a top quality performer, isn't he? I think every time he gets the ball, when I've seen him live against Leicester, there's a sort of sharp intake of breath, and you're worried that he's going to hurt you. And he not just an out-and-out goal scorer, electric pace. Excuse me, but he understands the game. He can play different roles, play central, play out wide as he has done of late, play up in a partnership with Lacazette. A lot of people think should be a more common occurrence. Genuine quality footballer. And Arsenal have a few of them as well. Lacazette, obviously a threat. Saka, I'm not alone in my admiration for him in the short time that he's been on the Premier League scene. That front three is going to take some looking after. Leicester will have their hands full this evening. But, but this is the thing. Leicester are competing on a level playing field these days. There's not a lot between the teams. Current form suggests Arsenal, in a lot of people's eyes, may be slight favourites. I don't know. For me, the likeliest result tonight is a draw. We'll see how things unfold.
Would that be a bad thing, do you think, for
No,
Leicester?
not at all. No, when you consider the opposition, you've got to be realistic. I mean, there'd be a few people who'd be slightly concerned at that, because obviously there's the threat of the points gap closing even more. Chelsea, last I saw, were winning.
3-2 up currently.
Right, OK, so I assumed that would still be the case. Palace down to 10 men. So, but that is what it is. Just to see how the game develops. But I take the point Walsh is saying there about the back three. You talk about Arteta, and he's sort of sieving out who he wants to keep there and who he perhaps will discard in the close season. And there's a couple of questionable decisions there. Louise being one of them. The defensive area looks as they are susceptible to the odd error, but at the end of the day, these players, they're no fools as well. Mustafi's had his critics, Kolasinac even to an extent. So right across that back three, there's a lack of surety about their play. Probably even as a three, but they're all good players in their own right. But maybe it's another level playing at a club like Arsenal or one of the the so-called big clubs. The standards are there, and they have to be kept week in, week out. Otherwise, you quickly become, in media terms, a poor player or a weak link. And you never get an easy ride up against Arsenal. But you can outfight them, and I think Leicester have done that previously. Perhaps that's changing under Arteta. But one area, just looking at the formations themselves as much as anything, one area where I think Leicester will be looking to penetrate and have an impact is with Jose Perez there. We talk about the two midfielders. Just on the tactical aspects of it and the systems, I think the wing-backs will probably cancel each other out more often than not. But Perez, with his movement there, can maybe link up with the front two. You know, Arsenal have a slightly different option, don't they? And different equation for Leicester to deal with. But Perez could be key tonight.
Arsenal, of course, come into this game on the back of that fantastic win over Wolves, and Simon Collins from the Evening Standard says that this next week is huge for both Mikel Arteta and Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, that Wolves win was probably one of the best of, I think, Mikel Arteta's reigns as Arsenal managers, simply because they were so structured, so organised, and anyone who saw that Brighton game and how they threw away the lead would have realised, Arsenal struggled with game management, but against Wolves, they went ahead, they saw it out and got that second goal. So I think for Leicester, it will be a case of appreciating, the threats that Leicester can do. I think before, when Arsenal have played Leicester, they've been so sort of open to bombing forward and being undone by the likes of Vardy, on the counter-attack. I think this Arteta side is a bit more smarter than that, so I would expect them to be like they were against Wolves, try and control the game, try and be organised and try and be structured. These next 2 weeks will really define the season. Obviously, this week it's Leicester, then Spurs, and then next week you play Liverpool, the champions, and then you've got an FA Cup final against Manchester City. So these 4 games, depending on how they go, will define how this season ends for Arsenal. I think Leicester is going to set the tone for all of that, and Arteta will be fully aware of that.
Clearly a huge game for both sides then tonight, Walshy. But Simon Collins there from the Evening Standard, not pulling any punches in terms of the game tonight. Pretty much from an Arsenal point of view, as Matt said earlier, if they are going to have a chance of a Champions League spot, they've pretty much got to win every single game that they've got left.
Of course, it's a huge task for them. I guess there's more pressure on them tonight to get a win in a statement of the facts are that they've done well, getting to where they have, the banging form, just one slip up now and that is it really. They can't afford another defeat, can they really? So they've got to, like you say, they've got more or less got to win every game, and that's a huge ask at this stage in the season. But listen, Arteta's got them playing. Anyone who goes to Wolves and gets a result is that opened my eyes a little bit, because Wolves have been banging for them, and they're a hard-working team. So this is again will be a test of fitness as well as strategically getting things right and knowing where the weaknesses are of your opposition. And I think we know that Arsenal can make a mistake at the back. So I think that any high pressing you'll see, I think from our strikers tonight, and there could be a mistake, because they love to play out, like a lot of teams do now. But sometimes, for me, Arsenal overplay to get out, and it was quite embarrassing at the start of the season when you watched them, even with the keeper giving so many mistakes. And but they seem to be there at the moment with Arteta. He's not going to stand for anything less than top class, and this Arsenal team is a different proposition tonight. So it's a very difficult game for Leicester. Like I said, if we can get something out of this game, I'd be very pleased. A win would be exceptional here tonight, and but we're capable, and let's try and expose for Arsenal for what they are. So it'll be an interesting match, like I said.
Gerry, just coming off the point that Walshy was saying there about how important it is for Arsenal to win this evening, do you think that might play into Leicester's hands a little bit, particularly if Arsenal do come at Leicester?
It very well could. There's no doubt about that. We've seen on Saturday how, with the third goal, Jamie Vardy's second goal, that Leicester still, even though they're trying to get away from that all-out counter-attacking football, that they still have that in their armoury. I think there's a lot of pressure on both teams tonight. There really is. I think the one thing that Leicester can do tonight, if they do get a good result, is pile that pressure on Manchester United, who don't play until Thursday night. So it's another vital game. Yes, we've got a win under our belt, thankfully, since coming back from lockdown. But we have to go out now tonight and try and build on that. So that just sees the pressure mounting in a slightly different way to if you were, at the bottom of the league. But again, you're coming up against Arsenal. They haven't conceded in 3 games, which we all know for them is quite phenomenal, let's face it, because they have had a couple of issues at the back. But in the last 3 games, they haven't conceded. And that result against Wolves, that is a massive, massive result. So we're in for a big, big night here tonight. Which way it will go, I don't think any of us really know. I think we're hoping and praying that we can get a win. As Voci said, if we get a win, that is a phenomenal result. A draw, I think, is a good result tonight. And yes, Arsenal probably aren't, the force that they've been in recent years, but under Mikel Arteta, they're slowly working their way back. So it's going to be a really interesting game.
While Gerry was speaking there, Matt, there was a tweet that came up on the bottom of the screen from ND. He said, imagine facing Evans, Soyuncu and Bennett as a back 3. And for Aubameyang and Lacazette, for as good as they are, that is a formidable backline in terms of their strength and their stature.
Yes, it is. It's not a bad front 3 that Arsenal have got either, though. It depends which perspective you're looking at it. But Brendan Rodgers will be relatively confident, I'm sure, that his defensive unit, including the wing-backs, and of course the man behind that back 5, Kasper Schmeichel, who's been in top form, will be able to resist. You've got the defensive midfield guard of, in particular, Ndidi and Tielemans to an extent. But the 3 centre-halves, they look pretty solid. They know their roles, don't they? They complement each other. We've spoken about the different aspects of Evans and Soyuncu's game, and Bennett, everyone's comfortable with him straight away, weren't they? I think they were a little bit not hesitant, but a little bit guarded about their opinion on that move by Brendan Rodgers when he come in. There were people saying, well, if he's not getting in Wolves' squad and he's surplus to requirements, how come they've let him come to Leicester, rivals, for a Champions League spot, as it turns out? And he's come into the fray and been redundant for a little while, but obviously he kept his head down, worked hard, and I thought he was hugely impressive when he came on. I mean, I've seen him play before, and he hasn't really caught my eye. He hasn't done anything wrong, but at the weekend I watched him, and he was smooth as silk, and he picked a pass nearly every time he had the ball, as well as strong and rugged and aggressive in his defensive duties, and it looks a real acquisition. A different test for him tonight. He's getting an opportunity from the start, but I'm sure he'll be looking forward to it and well up for it.
Yeah, Matt was obviously out doing LCFC radio commentary, so saw him in the flesh at King Power Stadium, Walshy, but we were impressed, obviously, watching him here on City on the Sofa, weren't we, Ryan Bennett? And he's been out for so long. I say out, he just hasn't been in the team for so long. You could have forgiven him for maybe being a little rusty, but it was quite the opposite.
Well, I think you can see why we've got him. Leicester don't just get players now without any careful thought of everything about the player. And the only thing is that we haven't seen enough of him, really, in that sense. But he certainly came on. He was very composed, like I said. His awareness, he was switching play a few times. His defensive duties were spot on. So there's more to see of him. I need to see more of him to make a full, valid opinion of if he's going to be able to compete at that top level and consistently do it. Then we've got to see more of him. And here's another opportunity. This is a tough game tonight. I think for Soyuncu and Bennett have to really play well tonight and be careful, because these are a dangerous 3 that we're playing against. So things could go wrong if they're not on top of the game and they read things right. They don't dive in. They don't start giving silly free kicks away, especially in the box as well. He's got to be careful. These players these days, how easy they go down in the penalty box. So again, it's a big game for them too. For me tonight, key players, I would say in what happens in the game tonight.
Well, we're about 10 minutes away from kickoff here on City on the Sofa. Do keep getting your thoughts sent in to us. Use the hashtag LCFC or hashtag ThenNowAgain. We'll get a quick reminder of Leicester's team for this evening. Gerry, what's the important thing, do you think, that Leicester need to do pretty much from the beginning tonight?
Arsenal's work rate. At the end of the day, you know, Arsenal are at home. Yes, there's no fans. We know that. But they may well still have a slight advantage. The only way you'll ever find that out is by matching them for work rate. And, you know, there's no magic solution tonight for me. You know, we talked about, you know, the guys we have at the back and the guys that Arsenal have up front. You know, that's where the key lies. Everywhere else over the pitch, you just got to match them and outwork them. And if you do that, then you have a good chance of taking control of the game. You take control of the game, then we know that Arsenal are susceptible at the back. But first and foremost, as I say, no magic formula. It's all about hard work.
Matt on Twitter says, come on, Leicester City, let's get 3 points again. We had another one in saying, Matt, that they loved the Leicester team again this evening. Do you agree with them? I guess you said when you came in and you saw the team, you were hoping that it was going to be similar to the system that they had in the game against Crystal Palace.
Well, I think the majority of people will be, you know, pleasantly relieved that the team is what it is after the result and performance at the weekend. Yeah, because Brendan Rodgers adopted that system. There had been a few raised eyebrows and caught people off guard, myself included. But it turned out to be a very good decision, as it is more often than not, by Brendan Rodgers with his tactical astuteness, and you know, whether that's pre-game, during the game, you know, bringing on substitutions, or making tactical manoeuvres within the 90 minutes plus. But it's it's got a nice, solid look to it. It worked well at the weekend, and people will be hoping for a similar response. Different game, different environment, as Gerry mentioned. You know, it's a game of football, and these two sides are, you know, closely matched enough for anything to be possible. Really, you know, it's going to be fine lines again. Fine lines, isn't it? Little things will make such a big difference, but Leicester have the capability. That's for sure. I thought looking at the lineup as it was on the screen just now, I think in terms of the defensive three, I think Evans will be in the middle. I think Bennett on the right and Soyuncu on the left. If that's not the case, I'd be quite surprised. But, you know, he'll just sort of pin everything together there, Johnny Evans in the middle of the three. And you look at it and, like, Albrighton's got a job to do, because you said, like, you know, what have Leicester got to do as well? They've got to remain an attacking force as well as try and contain Leicester. But that will be according to, you know, the phases of the game, how the game is mapping out. There'll be times to develop into a back five, soak up a bit of pressure, perhaps hit on that counter that Taggart mentioned. Or other times they might feel like they've got the upper hand and think, hang on a minute, you know, we're coping well with this. Let's go and stuff a little bit, take the game to them and keep possession, because Arsenal, you know, despite their good run, they're far from the finished article. And I think Leicester need to be mindful of how good a side they are. But, you know, they can look at subconsciously, you know, you might have that sort of underdog feel about you, despite how very immediate recent results have gone because of the history over the years. I'm sure they've been reminded of that somewhere along the line, but they need to dismiss that and go and, you know, remind people, remind Arsenal as well as themselves how good a team they are. And when the opportunity is there to go and strike, be purposeful about it. Don't be timid. Be aggressive in the manner, and, you know, strike when the opportunities arise, because without doubt they've got the capability.
The Leicester City players are in the tunnel as we speak at the Emirates Stadium. A reminder, if you want to listen to the game on LCFC Radio, you can do by going to lcfc.com/radio. If you want to continue watching the game with us guys talking about it, then of course you can. Unfortunately, you can't do that on social media though. All you need to do is head to lcfc.com/TV. We'll be back with the full 90 minutes though.
Hi Leicester City fans, this is Yuri. Thank you for all your kind messages. I hope you'll be supporting us from home as you do in the stadium.
We're not in LE2. Our hearts and minds will